All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm just going to read off the mission and vision statement for ENDC, and then we'll get off into the programming, and I will go over the ground rules for the speakers, audience, etc. But ENDC's mission and vision is to provide a democratic political voice to advocate an urbanist/equity platform with a focus on creating complete communities to keep current residents, families in San Francisco while welcoming newcomers. This club will primarily concentrate on the eastern neighborhoods comprised of San Francisco Supervisor Districts 3, 6, and 10. ENDC will speak with a strong, unified voice focused on issues related to the environment, public safety, affordable housing, transportation, education, open space, workforce opportunities, small business, and social justice. We will primarily concentrate on the eastern neighborhoods of San Francisco and endorse candidates and propositions which support the platform and values of the club. We organize at the intersection of community building and local politics. All right, so this is our November General Ballot Education Forum. We're going to be hearing from pretty much every campaign, all of the local campaigns for sure. Some of the state ones couldn't make it, so in their stead, I will just be reading off a neutral summary of the proposition. Each speaker will have a couple minutes to read, and I will tell you, if you're a speaker, how many minutes you have per proposition. You'll see I'm holding this microphone here. It only projects into the recording, so you're going to have to speak at an elevated volume so everyone here can hear you, because it's a theater room, so the walls are dampened, if you haven't noticed, so you got to project a little up and out. And without further ado, I wanted to hand off our first speaker tonight, Lila Holzman, who is representing ballot measures H, E, F, and D here in San Francisco. Whole slew of them. And please stand right here on the X.
Okay. And I hold this thingy.
Yeah.
Okay. I also speak really loudly. So usually, I don't know if this. Okay.
That's perfect. Yeah.
It's perfect.
That's very much.
Speech. Okay. I might be relieved if a colleague comes in to share the spotlight. But yes, ready to go. So my name is Lila. I am the campaign manager for the Stronger Muni for All campaign, which I'm going to talk to you about now. I have also left some flyers up there at the back if folks want to grab it on their way out. Really want to talk about just the importance of public transit everywhere, and especially in the Bay Area and especially in San Francisco. So just a couple stats: 70% of Bay Area residents take public transportation. There's almost 1 million transit trips every day in the Bay Area. Half of them are for work, and half of them are in San Francisco. Every person who's taking public transit is also reducing traffic congestion. So even those who think, oh, I don't take public transit, it doesn't apply to me. If you're in a car, if you're stuck on the streets, there's an impact. So in terms of what's at stake, we are essentially experiencing a budget crisis of public transit right now. And there's various reasons for this. Many are deeply systemic. Costs have gone up while revenues have not to the same extent. Also, fare revenue in general is not the main source of any transit system. And so what we're seeing is really like a budget gap that could really decimate our public transit system. So Muni could lose up to 20 lines, doubling wait times, starting late night service earlier at 9 p.m., streetcars at risk. And all of this really just puts more cars on the road, environmental and climate impacts, economic impacts for those who can't afford to be taking, Ubers or whatever other alternatives there may be. So in terms of the solution, the agency that runs Muni, which is SFMTA, has made a lot of improvements in the last couple of years. They've been becoming more efficient, restructuring a bit, getting rid of some positions. And that is a key part of what is helping to cover the gap, but it's not nearly enough. And so we actually are having 2 ballot measures this November. One is a regional measure that covers Muni, but also BART, Caltrain, et cetera. You'll hopefully hear from them also. And then even that's not enough. So then we've got Stronger Muni for All. And with the combined kind of 3 pillars there, that will be enough to make Muni stronger, not just, we say Stronger Muni for All, not status quo Muni for All. So this is enough to cover slightly more than cover the budget, so that hopefully service will also be improving, not just staying the same. So in terms of what is this measure, it is something that was developed in collaboration. It's got support from labor partners, community organizations, business owners, transit advocates, housing and tenant stakeholders, business leaders, local elected officials. Also, we have all 11 of the Board of Supervisors, which is kind of unheard of. And it's a fair and tiered parcel tax. So it's important to note that for most single-family homes, 95% of them will just pay a flat $129 per year, and then it goes up from there so that the largest commercial buildings and large landowners would pay proportionally more. There are also some guardrails and exemptions, so seniors over 65 who are homeowners would be exempt in most cases, and there's also a cap on the pass-through for rent-controlled units for renters. So it provides the amount of funding needed, but is as fair as possible. And recent trends support wanting to do this. There's a lot of positivity around Muni right now. Highest customer satisfaction scores, I think maybe ever, and it's certainly since the pandemic. Highest ridership since the pandemic. So we're really seeing a lot of rebounding, which is really exciting. A lot of the drive of, SF is back, and the economic revitalization or the economic recovery post-pandemic is all really reliant on Muni. So it would be pretty terrible to have cuts right now and send us a bit backwards. I also just wanted to mention, in terms of accountability, there are elements built into the measure. So there is a citizens oversight component, regular audits. And importantly, the funds are restricted to Muni operations. So this isn't about new projects, new things. Like, this is just really fundamental. And those kind of sources of funding can come from other places. And this in particular is really just about better service for everyone who takes public transit. I also just want to note, as I kind of mentioned, that the agency has been making its own improvements. And so there's ongoing accountability and kind of scrutiny on the agency to make sure that it's continuing to improve and cut costs where it can. And also want to just note, I think I always hear folks who are concerned about fare evasion, and that is a real problem, and it's also being addressed. I think SFMTA and the mayor recently announced that there's going to be an increase in fare inspectors. There already has been over the last year, and we are seeing results from that. Again, the amount that brings in is not enough to cover the substantial gap that we're facing, but it is, certainly something that the city should and is addressing. So I think I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I think I'll stop there and take questions, and just maybe end with just a kind of an emphasis on just how important public transit is to everything that makes our city amazing. So hope you all will support.
And if you have a question, please, we have a special microphone to capture it. So just go ahead and raise it again. This is Prop H.
Prop H, yes. Thank you. We just got our letters Monday. I'm still...
Yes. Are you representing the mayor's office?
No, I am the campaign manager. So the mayor is not... he supports this measure, and his office was involved in the drafting of it, but it was run as a citizens initiative, and I'm the campaign manager.
I have a question just for the future for EF&D.
Oh, we're not talking about that one yet, but...
But are those from the mayor's office, EF&D?
The mayor put those forward.
Thank you.
Sure. In collaboration with other stakeholders, I'll say. But you'll hear more about that in a little bit.
Hey, Lila, thank you so much. You did mention something about that there'll be an oversight.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what the oversight is?
Sure. Let me back at my notes. Yes. So there are components that basically ensure that there'll be regular audits and an independent citizens oversight component. So I think that's I think it will likely end up being maybe part of the citizens advisory group that exists for MTA, but it is a little bit TBD. I think in general, we know that what we've heard is that a big concern is, making sure this money is going where it's supposed to go. And ultimately, the way it was written is that it can only go to muni operations. So this is very specific, like, to that purpose, and it won't be used for anything else. We have that guaranteed.
Okay. Let's go into measure 2.
Okay. Julianne, do you want to take over, or do you want? Okay. I've got a colleague who's going to jump in.
That mic.
Oh.
Okay.
Up. And you thought we should do like all of them together in the question? Okay. So you can all first.
Oh, okay, cool.
Go ahead and stand on the floor,
Awesome.
and you'll have 4 minutes to talk about that.
Okay, and then we'll do 4 minutes and then 4 minutes and then questions all at the end? Or should I save time within each for questions? How do you want to do it?
ENDC, or is just going to do it together?
Like, I don't know. Do you have a preference, Lola, how we do it? If we do questions?
Save questions for the end. We should, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But we're not rolling through all of them all at once. Okay, cool. Awesome. So 4 minutes. And which one are we starting with? E. Okay, awesome. That's E for contracting. Makes total sense. So easy. All right, folks. Thanks so much.
Just wait till that beer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Face. Yeah.
Oh.
And maybe. Yeah. There. Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you, guys. All right. My name is Julianne Lempert. It's so good to meet you guys. Thank you so much for having me. So yeah, these are measures in a package called Clean Up City Hall. So there are 3 of them we're going to be going over today, D, E, and F. The letters do not have any helpful acronym for what they're about. So the first one is about contracting. So the story of these reforms is basically Daniel Lurie ran for mayor to clean up City Hall, to change the way we ran our government. That is what voters elected him to do. And he's been able to do some great stuff this past year, but has sort of run into roadblocks as he's gone along, and identified ways in which our government could, work smoother, work cleaner. And so he put forward these 3 reforms with a working group about, governance and how to save taxpayer dollars. And so the first one is about contracting. So this is to streamline the way our city does purchases through strengthening the power of the independent city administrator. And so it's to depoliticize the way that we do contracts. It can often get into a sort of quid pro quo kind of thing where there are, political favors. And so the city administrator is an independent person who is an expert in how to make the right purchases and how to combine things so that we save money and keep tax dollars going to essential city services. I point out how we have 5 separate Microsoft contracts going, which is just useless for us. We should have someone whose whole job is there to keep track of, things like subscriptions. And, over the years, as we've let political bodies decide how to do these purchasing, there's now 39 waivers stacked on top of each other just to make a purchase, which has, led to things like the infamous $1.7 million Noe Valley toilet. And so this would, bring more expertise to the city administrator, increase their term to sort of, build that expertise, and then also raise the threshold of what requires the board to approve something, because this has not been adjusted for inflation in a long, long time. So this would increase it from 10 million to 25 million so that we can get our government working quicker. And so I'll take questions on that measure. Yeah.
Will that person be elected or appointed, and if appointed, by whom?
So that person is appointed, by the mayor.
And the term limit,
this term limit is extending to 10 years, I believe. Yep.
it's more independent across administrations.
Yeah. And also just as another check on that, because like Lila said, it extends the term so that it can go throughout the different mayors. Also, any new purchasing laws that the city administrator proposes is still subject to approval by the Board of Supervisors. So it's not eliminating the Board of Supervisors' role and regulation.
Great. Okay. No more questions because you got your vote.
All right, awesome.
Well, again, formatting.
Okay, for which one? F, which is for accountability. Yeah, changes to executive branch. It's so easy. Okay, awesome. So this one is about the way we organize and work with department heads. So right now, the mayor in San Francisco only is able to manage 6% of all department heads, which is pretty crazy for someone that we elect to be an executive, and run our operations. And so this would change the appointing authority for some departments to allow the mayor to more speedily remove like ineffective department heads. We've had 6 now department heads either investigated or imprisoned for corruption. We have had a lot of issues with that. There are also people who, are in active investigation and we're not able to, remove them swiftly because it has to go through a whole process. Anyone who still had the appointing authority was the Board of Supervisors. They would still be in charge of removing them. And anything that's a watchdog agency like, police accountability or the Ethics Commission or the Department of Elections would still remain fully independent. This measure would change nothing related to watchdog agencies. It's more about changing the way that we let people who are just not doing their job whatsoever continue on, and that's not accountable to voters. These are unelected people who we elect for their expertise, but if they are no longer serving the people, there should be swifter ways where we can remove them and find better people to work for us. Yeah, I'll take some questions.
Oh, no. Okay. Copy.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep this short so I can get any questions. Okay, awesome. Okay.
By the way, copy.
Okay.
Well, even if you want. So
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. I don't know why I'm keeping a timer. I don't even need it, but oh well. All right, so this one is about reforming our ballot process. So yeah, this one has a few more changes to go over. So we all know as San Franciscans how long and complicated our ballots can be, not just in terms of the sheer number. Like we'll have 15 when other cities in the Bay will have, maybe just 1 or 2. But they're also, we get that thing where they're inverses of each other. Like remember from last cycle, it was like C and D, and it's really confusing to voters when there are these poison pills, these inverses of ballot propositions. And so this is about simplifying the way that we do ballot measures in San Francisco. And so one thing would be to remove the mayor's ability to unilaterally place something on the ballot. And that's a really important change that I go over because, some aspects of this package of reforms that, consolidate the executive's function. It's important to note that there are give and takes in all parts of these measures of who is gaining different influence. So yeah, it'd remove the mayor's ability to do that. That is not a thing that happens in other California cities. It would change the Board of Supervisors' ability right now. They can, just a minority of them can put something on the ballot. It would change that to now be a majority of them have to work together to do it. It would allow people to withdraw flawed measures. Like if something is incorrect right now, you are not able to withdraw a measure. It just has to go towards voters, and you have to do your best to communicate that the original proponents of the ballot measure no longer support it. That's a crazy thing to do to our voters, to have to, campaign to take your own thing off the ballot. So change that. And then also we have the lowest signature threshold in the state. The statewide standard is 10%. Ours right now is at 2%. And so this proposes to raise it to 8%, which is still below what most cities have. Cities go all the way up to 20%. And so these package of all these changes is to emphasize more coalition building before we just toss everything to voters, and to increase the deliberation that happens before the ballot. That's how flourishing democracies and grassroots movements work in all other cities across California. And it's to prevent, you will have someone work hard to put something on a ballot, and then it's super easy for, at the last minute, a special interest group to come in and sneak in a confusing poison pill that's the exact inverse of a ballot proposition. And then voters, come away like, I thought I had voted for this thing, but it was really the complete opposite. And so this would shift a lot more of the coalition making before things get onto the ballot. And so, just before I take questions on this one, I think, as I began at the beginning, that this is sort of a reflection on the mayor's past year of working to get through these different reforms. And this is a package that was a working group of small businesses, unions, community groups, government experts, professors, to really think about what are the best ways that we can get our city to work for us, regardless of what ideology you hold for different makeups of city halls down the line. We urge you to support these common sense reforms, and I'm happy to take questions on the ballot one.
I have a concern about raising the number of signatures from 2% to 8%. According to my calculations from GPT, that takes us from around 10,000 to 40,000 signatures. That makes it really difficult to put sometimes a needed ballot proposition on the ballot, and I'm afraid it would only allow for a catered, special, big-moneyed interest to put ballot initiatives up. So for me, that's a part of the last proposition, Prop D, that I have a problem with, and will probably mean I will vote against it.
Yeah, that's.
But I think that's an anti-democratic thing, and I feel confident that the voters can distinguish the difference, and I think it's our civic duty to understand the differences when there are two competing initiatives, one that might nullify the other. I think a lot of people in San Francisco should give each other credit for their understanding and not let us believe that we're all a bunch of confused voters.
Yeah. That's a good question. And I think that that's a very fair concern about the ballot signature threshold. One thing that we've seen in other cities, and I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but part of the reason why all of this signature collecting is deeply expensive in San Francisco is the sheer number of ballot measures. It's like a simple supply and demand. It's not the same cost in many other cities, like per signature, essentially. Because, we all know what it's like to sit at a bus stop and there's, maybe 15 signature gatherers coming around to try to get stuff. So the cost itself will hopefully go down per signature. I think the intent of the measure is to not stop citizens groups from coming together. I mean, there are flourishing grassroots movements in all cities across California. It's really about emphasizing more coalition building between community groups before things go onto the ballot, to make our, when we elect people, we want them to do their jobs, to solve a lot of things together, where we can work with representatives, instead of putting a lot of people express frustration at City Hall for putting so much on the ballot that, we don't necessarily knew that we had to read up on or weigh into, when we would rather have someone who, is qualified to speak on something, do that. But yeah, I think the intent of this is about allowing each measure on the ballot to be deliberated on beforehand, but also to give voters more of a chance to make sense of their ballot. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the threshold of other major cities in California, like LA, San Diego?
I think LA is 10%. I know that LA is 15. Okay. LA is 15%. Yeah, I think the highest is, like I said, 20, and ours is the lowest at 2. And I think I'm not sure if if it's the average is 10 or if it's the standard that we have is
Standard is set by what the average is.
by what? Okay, yeah, that's like the recommended standard. So this would still be on the low end of most major cities.
Okay. So, and LA is much bigger than San Francisco.
Yes.
So that would, like, any idea how, like, 10% of LA's population, how much that would be? Like,
I don't know. I know the county of LA is like 20 million people, so I don't know how much the city is. I think 10 million people in LA, so 15%, right? Is it 10 million?
so yeah.
Yeah.
Them on the ballot.
All points are difficult. You have to have professional
Yeah, exactly.
campaigns to do it. Well, I had a question.
Yeah. This will be what it was it's 2% of what, and going from two
Registered voters.
is it of registered voters?
Yeah, registered voters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is what, from the last election, or because number of registered voters changes from election to election?
That I don't know. I'm sorry. Does anyone? No.
Literally, they to use my
Is it
of intent to circulate.
okay? Okay. Sorry.
You ever?
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have to move on to the next ballot measure, but if you have questions, feel free to talk during or after the next
You've also
ballot measure.
And we left
Yeah.
on materials in the back and with a website, and that website has our email addresses on it. So
Thank you.
Very accessible.
Yeah, we understand that
Thank you so much.
Prop D is a big one. So go ahead and research it on your own as well. Do we have Kat Carter here? Oh, wonderful. Okay, come on down. Okay, Kat will talk to us for 4 minutes about the regional transit measure.
I had 6. That's fine. I did in 4 minutes at Alice. This is the first time I've used one of these microphones. Am I in the right?
Yeah, if you could stand up. Yeah, there's a little better because otherwise you get rough.
I'm good. Okay. Hi, I'm Kat Carter, and I'm here to talk to you about Measure RTM, the regional transit measure. For years, San Francisco public transit across California really has been chronically underfunded. We don't have good sources of dedicated operations funding, and operations funding keeps our buses and trains moving. And we've been talking for years about trying to find a new source, and then COVID made that need that much more urgent. And then now we've run out of emergency federal funding. Sorry, I'm a lot of breath. Emergency federal funding. And so we were hitting a fiscal cliff. And if we do not pass this measure in November, our transit agencies are making plans to make severe transit cuts to service starting in January. Muni could cut about 30% of its service, 20 bus lines, and regular evening service, going to owl service a lot earlier. BART will close 2 routes and close to 15 stations, up to 15 stations. Caltrain will go down to hourly service during the weekdays and eliminate weekend service altogether. So Measure RTM is a new sales tax proposed for 5 Bay Area counties. It'll be a half-cent tax in Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties, and a 1-cent sales tax in San Francisco. Part of the reason is that our sales tax is currently the lowest in the region. And also because we have the densest service, and there's some contribution to BART and Caltrain because we depend on them as well. So this would provide a new sustained, distributed source of funding for operations for 14 years, at which point it sunsets. And maybe we can find other sources of funding at that time. But we have kicked the can down the road too long, and we're at the end of the road, and we need this to pass or we will face drastic cuts. And as I'm sure you all know, if we lost that much transit service, traffic would just become unbearable. Our vulnerable populations would not be able to get around at all. I was at a meeting the other night with a blind woman who was like, I'm afraid of being held hostage in my own home. And so we've got, because of the years that this has been negotiated, we have a huge, broad coalition of supporters, people that often don't agree with each other, like business groups and labor groups, environmental groups, elected officials, community and transit advocates. So our endorsement list is large and growing, and we hope you guys will join us. And I want to leave time for questions.
Love these little fuzzy microphones. My name is Paul Wells. I'm wearing one hat now. It says "Make America Think Again," but I wear a lot of hats, and that includes I'm on the board of directors of Market Street Railway. We brought the vintage streetcars back. Obviously, thank you. It's become a symbol of San Francisco. You see it in a lot of ads that are shot in San Francisco, besides the cable cars, which we also support. So from that aspect, I have a vested interest in seeing this pass, because the F line is very highly threatened by a lack of funding. Also, I understand that there's a difference between the capital expenditure budget and the operating budget.
Yep.
What is going to be reformed in SFMTA to not waste money? Because another hat I wore until we were locally doged in the streamlining was the San Francisco Bicycle Advisory Committee, not the Bicycle Coalition. We're met at City Hall monthly, and watched a lot of money being wasted putting a center lane down the middle of Valencia and then going back to the sides, and people, were on one side and the other, kind of like what's going on with the Great Highway / whatever they want to call it, euphemisms for 100. We'll rename something. But my question is, how is SFMTA prepared? Because I know we're in support, on the Market Street Railway. Totally, there's a limit to how much we can do in support of this. But what are Muni's plans, SFMTA's plans, to make a better case for itself in not having waste and crazy expenditures and, a lot of...
The agencies know very well what's at stake in this, and they have been working on increasing efficiencies in a lot of different ways. Across the Bay Area, I don't have local numbers, but across the Bay Area, agencies, at least those 4 agencies, Muni, BART, Caltrain, and AC Transit are the 4 that are most at risk of huge cuts. And they have been working on efficiencies, and they've saved over $1 billion since the pandemic. Some of that comes from things like service cuts that we don't want to see, but they've sort of tried to right size things. They've frozen a lot of positions that they're not hiring for, and they're leaving those vacant. I understand the waste that was associated with the Valencia bike lanes. I can't speak to that in particular, but there in this measure there's a fiscal efficiency review. They already did one part of it, and then if it passes, there'll be another part that will be even more strict and more thorough about recommendations for increased efficiencies. There will be oversight if they don't meet standards for safety, cleanliness, service, and all this sort of stuff. Then there's an ad hoc committee can come in and enforce the standards that they need to be meeting, and they can lose funding while that's going on. So there are actual, they built in a lot of, the business community would not have signed on for this without a lot of oversight and efficiency review stuff.
Great.
Is that it? All right. Thank you. I will also leave materials for reach out. Thank you.
Okay, Griffin. Next up, we have Griffin Lee in opposition to the RTM. You'll have 4 minutes to explain the measure, and then also take questions. And then also one thing, please try to limit questions to 30 seconds.
Excellent. Thanks, ENDC, for having me. Griffin Lee, on behalf of the Committee for Affordable Bay Area Transit and Connected SF Institute and Connected SF. We're here to oppose the regional sales tax transit measure for a couple reasons. To start, how many here believe in accountability and transparency? Raise your hand. Hopefully, that's everyone? Yeah, okay. We are opposing the regional transit sales tax measure, not because we are anti-transit, but because we are saying and demanding accountability and transparency. In our calculations, there's a couple ways to avoid a measure of this nature. First is fare box recovery. Right now, we are losing out on roughly $100 to $120 million per year at the fare box. Number 2, in the charter SFMTA charter specifically, the definition of non-service critical full-time employees, if you count that total compensation, that number would be $177 million of the roughly $590 million or $177 million worth of savings. That doesn't include the benefits load, which would accumulate to $239 million. You've seen time and time again with SFMTA over the last 5-10 years, over budget, overtime on every project as well. They cannot clean up their own mess. We've asked the tough questions. They've failed to deliver and come back because they lack transparency and accountability. And that's what Mayor Lurie has run on and what he's been doing from day one. He got caught on to this measure. Why? I don't know. He didn't do his homework. But I can tell you right now, SFMTA does not have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. In addition to fare box recovery and full-time employee compensation relating to non-service critical employees, which wouldn't affect community service, I should be very clear. You saw it last year at the budget cycle last year, fiscal year 24-25 from SFMTA. They actually showed some teeth. Of the $50 million budget deficit they cut last year, $42.8 million, they were creative and dug deep and worked within their means. Why not this year? Again, they haven't been able to answer the tough questions. That's my feel.
No question. Thank you, Griffin. Our next speaker will be on Zoom. He'll be presenting some of these statewide measures.
And then Spencer, you've given him how much time, right?
And then, sorry, I just wanted to clarify because I think we have Dr. John Ma in the room to present on 44. So I'll actually just defer to him.
Yep. So we have you starting out with Prop 1.
Yes.
Then, and then you want to defer to John for 44?
Yeah.
So you want to move him to put 41 in between. So Michael, we'll have you do 1 and then 41. And then we'll that way we're done with Zoom and then we can go to John.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, you have three minutes for each of them, including time for Q&A.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Lee Chang. So the first one I want to present to you all on is Proposition 1. Prop 1, I would say, is the financing piece of the the urbanist housing agenda. We have San Francisco and California approves so many sites for housing, but they often lack financing. So right now, there are actually about 40,000 homes that are shovel ready. They are ready to be completed as soon as Prop 1 passes, as the only thing they lack right now is financing. The permitting is all complete. Everything is good to go. They just don't have the money to complete it. So for the numbers part, Prop 1 is a housing bond. It's specifically $11.25 billion for affordable housing, and then $7.2 billion of that is to build, preserve, and rehabilitate affordable housing units, including $1.15 billion for supportive housing. And then there's $200 million specifically supporting acquiring existing housing and preserving it as permanently affordable, and $350 million for student housing for higher education. And it's actually quite rare that higher education even has a piece in a bond measure. So they're actually really excited about this for UC and CSU students. $150 million for homeless and foster youth housing, and dedicated funding for seniors, people with disabilities, farm workers, tribes, and veterans. And then the one that I think urbanists would really care about is $500 million that goes directly to the Infill Infrastructure Grant Program. And so this is money that the developers can apply for, that can pay for like transit connections, that can pay for sidewalks, bike lanes, even things like stormwater drains, parks and open spaces. And so it's really, and there are no policy changes in this. And so it's really just money to build housing and meeting our housing crisis in our state. And so I think that's really it. If there's any questions, but Prop 1 is, I'd say, probably one of the more straightforward measures on the ballot.
Questions? No questions? No. You're gonna have to, Kurt, you're gonna have to ask up here. Or just, it goes to here. The microphone connects to the.
Still use that, but yeah.
All right, Michael, here's a question for you.
Michael, I have a question for you. Will this bond still be under like OMI restrictions?
Yeah, I believe some of the money is, I had that somewhere. I'm happy to send over clarifying information after, but from my understanding, some of it is, but not all of it.
All right, no other questions for this one. Michael, we can have you move to your second proposition, which is 41, right?
Yes. So 41 is going to be a little bit more complicated. So there's two main provisions. So I'll just, I think that makes it easier to understand. So the first provision is every special tax that's on the statewide ballot has to go through an audit before it's even voted on. So a pre-audit. And then all the audits are conducted by the state auditor's office, which already exists. And they're already doing the audit. So there wouldn't be any additional cost to do the auditing. And then that's pre-audit is then included, a summary of it is included in people's voter information packets. So like, when you're voting, you usually see like the fiscal estimate on ballot measures. And then just below that will be, how this money is going to be spent. And if it is actually being spent, how they're saying it's going to be spent. And so it's really providing transparency for voters. Basically the state asks voters to, vote on several special taxes. And often, we have this attack lane from Republicans that California is full of fraud and abuse. And this would also help close that attack lane, as we can point at the ballot and essentially, say voters know exactly what they're voting on. They can see right there on their ballot how their money is going to be used. And then on top of that, I think really, there's a lot of skepticism with like homelessness programs. And I think this really just gives confidence that, money is actually going where it's supposed to be. And if it's not, well, that would be flagged. And then assumably voters just wouldn't vote for it. And so that is the first part. And then, after it passes, then it has to also go through post audits every 4 years so that the money is consistently being used what it's said it's going to be used for. And then the second provision is in California, we have a constitutionally voter approved state spending limit. It's called the GAN limit. I'm just going to give an example. So let's say the GAN limit for this year is $1 million. It's usually way higher, and this is just an example. And the state actually rarely meets the GAN limit. But if the state were to collect, let's say, $1,005,000 in taxes, that excess $5 would have to go back to voters, either do a rebate or go to schools. And so a lot of special taxes get around this limit, and it would essentially just, close that loophole for special taxes. And I think really, the main idea behind this measure is that, like, we want voters to feel confident that when they're voting on a new tax, they know where the money is going. yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of questions on this. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer it now.
Questions on Prop 41? Oh, yep. You're gonna have to.
I'll speak loudly.
Yep. Michael, can you hear him? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear it faintly. Yes.
Okay. Voter threshold for the tax. If the citizen, if an initiative's on the ballot to raise taxes, I understand that the percentage goes up that's required of the voters to make it pass, like a supermajority.
No. So that's not in this measure. There are two other measures that could be doing that. One of them is I'm blanking on the numbers, but this would not change any thresholds. It wouldn't change anything like that.
Okay. Any other questions while I fix this? If not, all right. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Really, again, we're asking for a yes on 1, and then a yes on 41, and then Dr. John Ma will tell you about the no on 44. So thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is John Ma. I'm a general surgeon at Chinese Hospital and a member of the California Medical Association. I'm here to speak on behalf of no on Prop 44. Prop 44 sounds reasonable at first. It requires nonprofit community clinics to spend at least 90 cents of every dollar on expenses that the measure counts as program services. If they fall short, they must pay the difference to the state as a penalty. The key problem is that its definition leaves out essential clinic costs. These include translation services, telemedicine, clinic rent, mammography, and x-ray equipment that may not count. A clinic can be providing needed care and still owe a large penalty. A Berkeley Research Group analysis estimates that Prop 44 could take $1.7 billion from community clinics in its first year. These are clinics for Medi-Cal patients, uninsured people, seniors, immigrants, working families, and children. Kids across California rely on community clinics and school-based health centers for routine and preventive care. Prop 44 would eliminate funding for hundreds of school-based health clinics that serve tens of thousands of California students. That could make it harder for children to get care, to stay healthy, and to stay in school. Additionally, when a clinic cuts services or closes, patients wait longer, they get sicker, and they often wind up in the emergency room. That results in more crowding in our emergency rooms, longer waits, and higher costs across the healthcare system. I understand the concerns about executive pay, transparency, and how clinic workers are treated. But Prop 44 does not cap CEO pay or create new protections for workers. It puts clinics, their staff, and their patients at financial risk. The California Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the San Francisco Marin Medical Society, Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, the California Teachers Association, and the California Democratic Party all oppose Prop 44. I respectfully ask that the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club join them and vote no on Proposition 44. Thank you.
All right, and now we will go to questions. A question from the audience is, who gathered the signatures for Prop 44?
Thank you. My understanding, the signatures for Prop 44 were gathered by UHW, by United Healthcare West.
Okay, I am seeing no other questions, so thank you for your time, Dr. Ma.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
Next up, we'll be hearing from Nicole Serrano, who is supporting Proposition 42.
Yes, hello.
Perfect. I know you won't be able to see us, but there's about 30 odd people in the room, but we can all see you. You're here for Prop 42. You'll have a total of 5 minutes on the schedule, inclusive of Q&A. You can begin whenever you want.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Serrano, and I'm with the Yes on Proposition 42 campaign. This is the Protect Retirement and Life Savings campaign, and thank you so much for having me tonight. A little bit about Proposition 42. It was created to protect Californians' hard-earned savings from any new or retroactive taxes. It prohibits new taxes on retirement accounts, savings accounts, and other personal property, as well as prevents retroactive taxes. It also preserves all current state and local tax revenue and leaves most future tax policy options available to the legislator and voters. It is a narrow but important protection from new taxes on personal savings. And right now, it's never been more important to protect our savings. I think we can all agree on that. I can't see you, but hopefully we can be in agreement in that. Today, about 94% of Californians say the state's high cost of living makes it really difficult to save for retirement. Affordability is top of mind for a lot of folks. And sometimes how we save for retirement goes and falls on the wayside. And in a time of rising costs, Californian working families deserve to retire in dignity and not have to worry about their future savings. Ultimately, Prop 42 wants to protect the pensions and retirement accounts of Californians, including our teachers and support staff, firefighters, and other public employees who should not be taxed on the future value of their pension benefits before they ever receive them. It also protects Californians who contribute to 401ks, retirement plans, and any individual retirement accounts such as IRAs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and other investments, maybe company options, and so forth. It's why we were backed by a very large coalition of senior, veteran, and labor groups, such as the California Professional Firefighters and California State Building and Construction Trades. We also are backed by the California Senior Alliance, as well as AMVETS. We'd be honored to receive your support and happy to discuss a little bit further if there's anything else that I missed.
Any questions for Nicole? Yep. Gary, you might want to just come down here and talk to the computer. This is easier. All right, Nicole, we have a question for you.
Was there something that prompted the creation of this proposition? Because I'm a few years from retirement, so now my ears are perked.
Yes, of course. So ultimately, this was just created, not as a direct response for Prop 40. That's something that I've heard just come up a few times. This is actually just to help prevent any and all taxes on our future savings. There have actually been multiple attempts in the legislature to actually pass taxes on pensions and retirement accounts. This was done an attempt here in 2019 with AB 2088 as well as AB 310. The legislature has tried to really focus on taxing personal property, which is also part of these life savings. So there hasn't been like an exact moment beyond these key pieces of legislation that would make it possible for these retirement accounts and personal savings accounts to be taxed. So this is a preventive measure.
All right, no other questions. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. You have my email. We would really love the support and endorsement of this organization, as well as your vote come November.
Good. Thank you.
All right, next up is Joe Clifton here. We have Proposition B. Great, there we go. Wonderful.
I wish I could share the whole timeline of how we got to this with you. It's been about 8 years of policy work. But the first major milestone I want to cover is then Assembly Member David Chu's Bill AB 857, which created the pathway for municipal public banks, and the San Francisco Reinvestment Working Group, which produced a business plan, governance plan, and viability study on behalf of the city. That body hired de novo banking consultant Gary Finley with sort of the express mission of a bank that would satisfy regulatory requirements and be the most effective steward of public funds. Top concerns were protecting public funds and making sure that in conversation with the FDIC and such that the bank had a plan that was going to satisfy regulatory scrutiny. All of this to say, we are seeking to implement the vision of that governance plan in our city charter. So this will be the most regulated bank in the world, in America certainly, having all the typical regulation a private bank enjoys, in addition to the state regulations in AB 857, and those we are trying to add to our city charter. So what the charter amendment does is very simply, it restricts lending on nasty things that are out of alignment with San Francisco values. So bans on fossil fuels, weapons manufacturing, private prisons and detention centers, and tobacco. And it allows for governance to be appointed by, in addition to the mayor, the city attorney, the treasurer and tax collector, and the controller, in order to add their expertise to the governance, as well as the board of supervisors. What the charter amendment does not do is it does not identify a funding source. It does not require that San Francisco dedicate funds to capitalizing a public bank. It simply establishes a good set of rules for a public bank in the event that San Francisco chooses to establish a public bank. And this is politically helpful and good because this opens up opportunities for funding to capitalize the bank from state, federal, philanthropic sources, including Biden's climate bill, which had a major victory in the courts this past week. But passing this commitment and preparing this entity to receive capitalization will allow for the maximization of opportunities for our city. And just very clearly, what this does not do is this does not set in stone products or terms for the bank. These are determinations to be made by the bank itself. The vision in the governance is, the democracy comes in at the point of the oversight committee. So the oversight committee will be appointed by these elected officials. Then those oversight committees will appoint a bank board, just a typical bank board. Rather than private shareholders, the shareholder is San Francisco, represented by these elected officials. And that bank board oversees staff who have sole responsibility on loan originations. So at no point will a politician be able to try to make a loan happen or not happen. So there will be an independent bank board. It can only be removed for cause. So it's not going to be like the whole point is to set up an independent entity to responsibly steward San Francisco's fund with the advisory and guidance of our elected officials. And just to share some supporters, I hope you will join with this was put on the ballot with 9 supervisors voting to do so, including Supervisor Dorsey, Souter, Mandelman, Melgar, and Mahmoud. And the endorsing organizations you would be joining if you also endorsed would be the San Francisco Foundation, the San Francisco Labor Council, the League of Conservation Voters, Women's Political Committee, the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club, and the Climate Emergency Coalition, in addition to many, many other affordable housing and community development organizations. So thank you for your time, and please vote to endorse Prop B.
Thank you so much, Misha. Thank you.
Any question?
I'll ask. Do any other cities have a public bank right now?
We are racing Berkeley. So Berkeley has a measure on the ballot this year as well to fund their bank. So, and in some ways more ambitious. And there are efforts, nascent efforts across the country, but municipal banks are relatively rare compared to state-owned banks, territorially owned banks, or municipally owned banks in other nations.
I'll talk loud.
Oh. Will this bank be insured just like every other bank?
Correct. It's required to seek FDIC insurance, in addition to which, through AB 857, it has high collateralization requirements, and the business plan has a particularly conservative capital reserve requirement. Yeah. So above average capital reserve requirement.
How much above average?
I believe it's 12 to 13 or 13%. I understand the average is 10.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
Well, what would be the actual advantages of a public bank as opposed to one of the standard commercial banks?
That's a great question. So the primary one, frankly, is that the profits that the bank generates just are immediately reinvested into more low-cost loans for San Francisco, as compared to a private bank. There is this is not like way down the line. With the treasurer's vision, like if this bank gets if and when this bank gets a credit rating after 8-10 years of operation, what we have right now deposited with B of A, we could deposit in our public bank, and then that would form some of the capital and deposits that would help issue more loans. And so that's a really exciting advantage that's way down the line, not like the only advantage, but sort of one of the main advantages over credit unions, which also have this reinvestment function that we like. And this this bank plans on partnering with credit unions, especially initially really leaning on their loan origination powers and purchasing participation loans with them. So it's all about building on what the city has. And then this term flexibility that public banks offer is what's like particularly exciting, I think, where the kind of policy heart for this came from, because there are a lot of great programs that for good reasons have strict term limits, and I'm thinking about small business lending or electrification for buildings. And so flexibility in these terms can really maximize how much funding and financing comes to San Francisco. And, for housing in particular, another great example, a reason we enjoy so much support from labor is there are a lot of projects, that are held up by a $3 million to $10 million pre-dev loan, construction loan, very capable of achieving the capital stack it needs, but just missing some gap financing that the public bank is really poised to provide early. And often it's a development, and as it scales up, can do a lot more. But that's what I'm really excited about. I wish we had right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, please contact me if any of you want to talk about this more. I could do it all night.
All right, do we have Jack here for Prop C? Hey. All right, welcome back, Jack.
Been here a couple times.
Yeah, right? You got 5 minutes?
Cool.
Back to about 3 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Jack Gallagher. I'm with Yes on C, San Franciscans for Affordable Homes. We're sponsored by the NPH Action Fund. We're here to support the renewal of the Housing Trust Fund. Housing Trust Fund was passed by the voters in 2012 with over 60% of the vote. And since then, it's helped us preserve and create affordable housing throughout the city, has helped us with down payment assistance loans for first responders, nurses, and teachers, as well as helped us with eviction defense and other programs surrounding housing. The program is set to expire. We're looking to renew it for an additional 15 years, as well as raise the cap from what is now $50 million to $125 million over the length of the program. Additionally, it does not have it's not a new tax measure. We're using existing revenue that we collect through a special formula, which is kind of a mix of future property tax growth and general fund. So it's kind of a long equation, which I could go into as well. But what this would do is continue the success of the program that we have now, but build on it so that we could potentially down the road leverage these funds for bonds, either through the state or feds for matching, to kind of help us expand from what we've already been able to create. So this is a critical measure for San Francisco. We have a large group of folks supporting our measure. It was put on the ballot by all 11 members of the Board of Supervisors, supported by Mayor Lurie, as well as both of our assembly members here in San Francisco. We've recently gotten the endorsements of the San Francisco Democratic Party, Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club, the Sierra Club, the League of Conservation Voters, as well as a number of affordable and market rate developers throughout the city. So we have a really broad coalition of people supporting this measure, and we'd love to have the support of ENDC. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know you guys have a lot of ballot measures to go over. I still don't know half the state measures, so I got to do my homework, but happy to answer any questions on Prop C. We like to call ourselves the consensus housing measure, so we have support from both sides. So, yeah. Kurt, I know you have one.
I do. I'm afraid to ask.
You can ask her. You have my number. You can always ask me as well.
I'm gonna ask because, in San Francisco, everything is $1 million.
Yeah.
Everything is $1 million. We were just driving down Petro Hill. We looked at a house across the street from General Hospital, $1.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad size, but do you guys plan on, if there's provisions to help people like down payment assistance, How long will that bucket of money last?
I think it really depends on how many people apply for those programs.
Well, at 20% down, come on, man.
I
$1.6 million, that's
get it.
$320,000.
I know a number of firefighters that have been lucky enough to be able to get the down payment assistance. The exact number, I don't know the number off the top of my head. It really depends on how fast or how much the fund builds up, but I'm happy to follow up with you on the exact numbers on it. I think it's one of the big highlights of the program. It helps us keep teachers, nurses, first responders in our city, like, to help with these massive down payments. It really is a critical issue, and I completely understand your frustration on it. So, but I'm happy to follow up on numbers, hard numbers for you. Yeah. Sorry, I still get used to holding the little mic like this.
Right, there's no other question.
Cool. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jack. All right, next up we have Proposition G. Do we have Eliza here? We'll go support and then oppose. You guys will have the same amount of time each. So, oh, sorry, oppose support. Yes, yes. All right, so you'll have about 5 minutes for Q&A and presentations. Just stand right here, speak into the mic, but also just project because that's what.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Eliza Panicky. I'm here with No on G Save Sunset Dunes. The choice voters have faces actually pretty straightforward. Do we want to keep one of San Francisco's most popular parks, or do we want to destroy it to bring back a road that we now know we don't need? Very quickly, here's how we got here. This space has technically been parkland since the late 1800s. It first became car-free during COVID, then became a weekend park, and San Franciscans have had 2 opportunities at the ballot to decide its future. In 2022, voters overwhelmingly rejected Prop I, which would have required the road to be open to private vehicles 24/7. In 2024, voters passed Prop K to designate the land full-time for recreational use. And in April 2025, Sunset Dunes officially opened as a full-time park. Now, just over a year later, we're being asked to vote on it again. But what we've learned since opening is that Sunset Dunes is working. It's already the 3rd most popular park in San Francisco, and importantly, more than half of all visits happen on weekdays. That matters because Prop G is being presented as a way to have both a road and a park. But if nearly 60% of park visits happen during the week, eliminating weekday access eliminates the majority of the park's use. This is the most important thing I want to make clear today. Prop G would destroy Sunset Dunes. The former roadway is the park. You cannot put cars through it Monday through Friday and leave the park around them. Prop G would require removing the in-progress playground, skate and bike park, fitness area, hammocks, benches, picnic tables, and art. It would also stop the planning process for future improvements. So on weekdays, this would be a road, and on weekends, it would be a closed road. Everything that actually makes Sunset Dunes a park has to go. And taxpayers would pay millions of dollars to make that happen. The controller estimates reopening the road could cost roughly $20 million over 5 years. So we would spend millions dismantling one of our most visited parks and rebuilding an unreliable coastal road. The reasons we voted for Prop K are still applicable. The roadway itself was chronically unreliable, closing unexpectedly up to 60 days a year because of sand drift. And the southern portion of the old roadway is permanently closing because of coastal erosion. That means it no longer provides the direct north-south route it once did, regardless of what happens with Sunset Dunes. Those underlying facts have not changed. What has changed is that we now have real-world traffic data rather than projections. And the traffic disaster people predicted just hasn't happened. I'm a resident of the Outer Sunset. I live there. I'm out there every single day. The traffic just doesn't exist. Sunset Boulevard remains below pre-pandemic traffic volumes. Travel times on the 29 Sunset range from 44 seconds faster to 30 seconds slower. The 18 is unchanged. And even the SF Chronicle's independent analysis found that the worst case rush hour trip adds about 4 minutes. Meanwhile, long-term planning is already underway for more landscaping, amenities, and improvements. Prop G would stop all of that progress. So this November, voters really have a choice between moving forward and tearing down what we've built. Prop G would destroy the park and its amenities. It would eliminate the majority of park visits. It would cost taxpayers millions. It would threaten nearby small businesses that have reported significant revenue increases since the park opened. And it would do all of that to address a traffic problem that the data tells us simply has not materialized. San Franciscans would give up an incredibly popular coastal park and get very little in return. That's why a growing coalition of San Francisco leaders is already supporting No on G, including Senator Scott Wiener, Board President Raphael Mandelman, Supervisors Cheryl, Souter, Mahmoud, Melgar, and Dorsey, and leaders across our school, transit, and community institutions. Today, I'm asking you to join them and endorse No on G. We fought for years to give San Franciscans permanent access to this coastline. The park is open, people are using it, businesses are benefiting, traffic is moving, and we're only beginning to see what Sunset Dunes can become. Thank you.
It was already a beach. So my question to you is, when you say third most popular park, do you include people that merely walk across it to get to the beach?
The traffic that is recorded is north-south, and it's recorded. It's not recorded just crossing the park. It's recorded people who are passing sensors going north and south on the park itself.
Is there a neighborhood association in the area, and what are they saying about this? And where exactly is the road closing due to erosion?
Yeah, I'll start with the end. The road is closing due to erosion south of Sloat to Skyline. That's the portion that is directly next to the San Francisco Zoo. And that connects to South Bay. That would get everybody onto Skyline and then down to 280. There are any number of neighborhood associations. I'm also with Outer Sunset Neighbors, which is entirely supportive. Sunset Merchants Association is also supportive of No on G.
Thank you so much. So we don't have any time for another questions, but you can connect after. Next up, we have the supporters for Prop G. All right. Thank you. 5 minutes again.
Yes. All right. Is this good? Hello, everybody. My name's Otto Pippinger. I am campaign manager for Proposition G, until recently, Great Highway for Everyone, or the effort to reintroduce private vehicles to the Upper Great Highway from Monday to Friday, right? I have produced copies of our petition itself, the content of this measure. It's a lot to get into in only 5 minutes, so please take a copy for yourself, and I look forward to hopefully speaking to your board. Since we've already covered some ground about what happened, right? 2020, out of the pandemic, we had a compromise system, right? Closed on weekends, open on weekdays, which was closed by Joe Lingardio and a few other supervisors at the end of 2024. Against the wishes, against the votes of about 2/3 of District 4 residents, his voters, and about 80% of District 1 Richmond voters, right? Since that time, per GrowSF's polling, we've seen opposition out here grow about 3 or 4% in each neighborhood, because the adjustment to this, which the residents were supposed to find themselves undergoing, has simply not happened, right? For the 21,000 people a day who utilize this, the problems have persisted and worsened. Taking the information, the rush hour information, the minimization politically of what we're doing, but if we take that at face value, we are talking about 10 minutes a day for every work day out of the year, right? That is 26 hours a year, a full day, 3 full work days spent additionally in the vehicle, creating emissions for the neighborhood along our coastline, right? What we have here is a leisure area. It is a nice one, which many people enjoy, but it is enjoyed by a subset of people, and it has come at the expense of a really necessary and vital piece of infrastructure for this neighborhood and the 21,000 total people who were previously using it each day, who are now forced to redirect, right? In addition to, losing a calendar day with your family each year, this also applies to emergency vehicles, right? Those which would have been using it, which are redirected during these times, or those which use the roadway itself, which is still navigable by them and is nearly daily. what sounds like an infinitesimal amount of time when presented as a few minutes can be the difference between life and death in the event of a fire, in the event of a heart attack, a serious accident, right? And so we cannot place people's ability to go to work, to get their children to school, to make it to their emergency appointments or scheduled appointments. We cannot place that under an area for entertainment, right? We have seen a precipitous rise in accidents. In 2025, we had nearly as many accidents by the first half of the year as had happened in all of 2024. And more importantly, the situation, for those who aren't familiar, this is located on the west side. The southern edge of District 4 is chain of lakes. It's what it sounds like, right? It's not very navigable in numbers. The west side, 2.5 miles from Lincoln to Sloat, has been permanently closed down, right? Lincoln itself is not infrequently closed due to either traffic or events which have been scheduled at Golden Gate Park, like outside lands. 19th, which is the easternmost border, was shut down just this last summer for a sustained period of time. This is an inconvenience at the moment. In the event of a serious emergency, right, this is potentially a disaster. However, we are not undoing their park. We are seeking a compromise. We are seeking to make what should make 90% of all residents 90% happy, we like to say, right? The park is more than the roadway, right? Whether they like it or not, it contains the green areas along the side, it contains the bathroom, it contains the amenities to the north and south, as well as in the middle, right? The fact that the road itself is a very large portion of the park does not change the fact that it is a park of multiple components, right? By comparison, if a road in Golden Gate Park were closed to traffic for a year, then that policy were to be reversed temporarily, we would not say that we were proposing the closure of the park. Neither are we here. The many amenities, the biking, the walking, the hammocks, benches, various bits of arts, all of that will remain available 24/7. And those who enjoy biking on it, which is one of the most sort of robust and sole usage that a lot of people use, will be able to do so during the weekdays, right? So, we would like to ask you to very seriously consider this. This is a serious problem for a lot of people, right? You've heard some stuff about the price, which is a citation of a worst case scenario, an extrapolation of the highest possible numbers in all cases, the vast majority of which comes from the replacement of the unnecessarily demolished traffic lights, which were scheduled for recent replacement already, funds which are still in the budget, right? And which at that point were valued at $4.5 million rather than the nearly exactly double that which we are seeing today. Similarly, the cost of sand removal has fluctuated up and down, skewing upwards since 2011. But even using the highest valuations that the city controller has proposed, we can't see anything higher than the $500,000 figure, which they posit as the lowest. We've sent a letter asking for explanation to them, and if any of those, anybody here or the board would like to receive that, please do let me know. We'll be delighted to provide that and keep you up to date. I suppose we should take a moment if there's any immediate questions.
All right, I'll ask one. You said it adds 10 minutes delay every day. Well, and the previous person said it didn't really add any time. So can I ask where you got your numbers?
Well, sure. We're talking about the peak hours of usage, right? Going to work in the morning, coming home at 4:35, 5:30, right? What was just said was a little over 4 minutes, right? So we're talking 9 to 10 on an average day, right? Barring something extraordinary, right? That is when the peak usage occurs and continues to occur, but is diverted into our residential neighborhoods, which were not given any additional infrastructure for this. And we have not only a great deal of traffic, we have chemical tankers, 18-wheelers, often navigating awkwardly through streets that were not designed for them, where our kids play, where elders are walking without any additional safety investment. Yes.
You said there's been an increase in automobile accidents. Have any of those been pedestrian related accidents, given that the traffic's being diverted onto the side?
Yes, in many cases. I don't have the exact number for that, but I can provide that for you if you're interested. A lot of it is in Supervisor Wong, who is supporting us in press conferences on this subject over the last little while, as well as in the general statistical information. As well, of course, there are the high-profile ones which have happened on Sunset, within Sunset Dunes itself, under the closed roadway, e-bike accidents with people who are crossing east to west and west to east. All right. Well, thank you ever so much for having me. Appreciate your time. Look forward to speaking more.
Thanks, Liz. Have a nice
Okay, next up, I will be, but we tried our hardest to get speakers for and against every measure. Sometimes that wasn't possible. So instead, I will be presenting, and I will be talking about Proposition 40. This is the billionaire tax. I will be just reading neutrally off of Ballotpedia, which does neutral summaries of every ballot measure. So I'll be reading a summary of the measure and then also arguments for and against the measure. I'm fairly knowledgeable about it, so if you have any questions, I will try to field them. But again, I'm not a representative of either campaign. So Proposition 40 is the high-profile ballot measure that will apply a one-time 5% wealth tax on the assets of roughly 200 California billionaires to be paid over 5 years. This is estimated to generate about $100 billion. 90% of the revenue would go to pay for the health care for low-income Californians, and 10% toward education and food assistance programs. The supporters include the SEIU, United Healthcare Workers West, Senator Bernie Sanders, Teamsters California, and AFSCME California. Opponents include Governor Gavin Newsom, Mayor Daniel Lurie, prominent billionaires including Google co-founder Sergey Brin and Ripple Labs co-founder Chris Larson, the California Teachers Association, California Primary Care Association, and California Medical Association. Some of the arguments in favor of the measure come from the United States Representative Ro Khanna, who says it's a matter of values. We believe billionaires can pay a modest wealth tax so working-class Californians can have Medicaid. Some of the opposition arguments include Planned Parenthood affiliates of California, who say the initiative's uncertain impacts on the state budget and lack of specificity on healthcare allocations will do more harm than good in the long term. And then Governor Gavin Newsom says, we can't let a single advocacy organization, however well-intentioned, write the state's tax code on its own terms. We make those decisions together through the elected legislature, through a budget, and through the public process that voters built precisely to prevent any single interest from prevailing with disregard for the rest. At the same time, the fight to make the wealthiest Americans pay more in taxes is not one we should be fighting state by state. You may not be able to pick up and move to Texas or Florida to shelter your income from taxation, but I promise you that billionaires can and do. Wealth is movable, and it shops for the state with the lowest taxes. The fight belongs at the federal level, where this broken system was created in the first place. So with that being said, if there's any general questions about the measure, I will again try to field them the best I can.
Okay. Well, it's my understanding that it only covers the assets above $1 billion, and it's only certain assets of the billionaires. Can you clarify what those assets are? And secondly, according to what I read in the Chronicle, if this fails and the budget cuts to Medi-Cal come through from the Trump administration, 2 million people, many of them children, will lose their Medi-Cal insurance. And my concern is there's no proposal by the opponents of Prop 40 to backfill that money to make sure low-income folks, including children, don't lose their Medi-Cal insurance. So I'm also bothered by the fact that I've also read that about $92 million has already been spent by people opposed to Prop 40, when that money could be used to make sure that if the Medi-Cal cuts come, that we don't take children and low-income folks off Medi-Cal.
That is a good question. I do not have the facts as for what the assets are being taxed, but I recall reading that it was
it's only on the assets above $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, in other words, if a billionaire is worth $2 billion, he only pays on the second $1 billion.
I see. So the initiative would create the tax reserve fund where all taxes, interest, and penalties resulting from the initiative will be deposited. So it covers over assets valued over $1 billion, including shares of capital stock, bonds, or other evidences of indebtedness, and any legal or equitable interest. And it's retroactive and would apply to taxpayers residing in the state as of January 1st, 2026. As for the allocations for it, though, I'm not entirely certain, or the plan to address the need for a backfill.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. If you're interested, I really encourage doing some research on your own for this measure because it is extremely contentious. Tons of money's flying around for this one. So yeah, mostly against it. So go ahead and research it online, but we do have our next speaker on Zoom.
No. That's it.
No?
What did you say?
Yeah, who's
the 45 is just shut up.
Is it not? What's the name?
How did it? Just shut up.
Yeah.
Not 45.
Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move on to Proposition I. Do we have Jacob Mata here? Great. Hey, you'll have 3.5 minutes for presentation and taking Q&A. Just go ahead and take it away. Perfect. Hello. How are you all? My name is Jacob Mata. I am the campaign manager for the Affordable Housing Guarantee Act, now known as Prop I, 2026, as I like to say. So I want to rewind back to 2020 during the heart of the pandemic. Voters in San Francisco with 58% of the vote voted to pass or to double the transfer tax rate at the highest levels. So anything above $10 million that was sold was taxed at a 6% rate. The intentions of this fund or this money, you can look at all of the ballot handbooks from 2020. You can look at a unanimous Board of Supervisors resolution that called on or that explicitly mentioned that we were going to spend that money explicitly on affordable housing and keeping people housed. And it worked. For the first 2 years, we spent $203 million around the city upgrading elevators at SROs, funding teacher and workforce housing, keeping seniors in their apartments, and also building some new affordable housing units across the city. Since then, under both the current administration and the previous administration, the mayors have chosen not to spend that money. This is directly against the will of the voters. Like I mentioned, when this was passed, it was message to voters that this was going to be spent on affordable housing. Right now, I think we all know that rents are massively expensive. I live in the Tenderloin. When I moved there 2 years ago, granted I've been in the city for 10 years, I've seen kind of how this trajectory has gone. Rents were only maybe about $1,500 for a studio. They're now $2,300. That's the Tenderloin, right? And for $2,300, you're getting a kitchenette, which I think is kind of crazy. So we have this issue of massive unaffordability in the city. We're not building enough. We have to build 46,000 units of affordable housing in 5 years by 2031. And there's about 17,000 in the pipeline that do not have financing. What Prop I will do is take that money that we said we were going to use for affordable housing, put it in a separate fund that is explicitly used to build and construct affordable housing. It is meant to subsidize in that sense. It goes to building and constructing affordable housing, preserving and acquiring at-risk buildings, and also preventing or creating eviction and tenant protections. So it would create funds to keep people housed, like rental assistance. This measure only needs 50 plus 1 to pass, and that's partly because it is... Actually, rewind. The reason why this is not the way that it's supposed to be and why each administration has been able to divert those funds is because they go into the general fund. At the time in 2020, there wasn't legal precedent to impose a special tax that was passed by voters and not explicitly the city. Prop 13 bans local cities from imposing a special tax, and the special tax is just a tax that is meant to go to a specific fund. That wasn't legal precedent at the time. If some of you are familiar with Measure ULA down in Los Angeles, it allowed, the courts ruled that that was constitutional.
that voters themselves can impose a tax on themselves to create a special fund like affordable housing. Measure ULA. Thank you. Measure ULA does that down in Los Angeles. It's a tax on mansions over $5 million to create specifically affordable housing around the city. That's exactly what our measure does. This measure is about holding City Hall accountable. It has reporting requirements, contrary to what some may have heard today from the mayor. It requires every year on February 15th that not only his administration, but the city controller produce a report. It doesn't raise any taxes. So the people that are already paying this are going to be paying exactly the same thing as what they pay today. And that's how we fund affordable housing. We need 46,000 units built in 5 years, like I mentioned. And so more than happy to answer questions about the measure. You're more than welcome to go to yesonisf.com and find out more too. Questions? Not all at once. It's okay. It's okay. I'm also the PAC chair for Milk Club, so doing something very similar to you all on Saturday.
What groups are supporting Prop I?
I'm sorry, say that.
What groups are supporting Prop I?
What groups are supporting Prop I? I am very, very happy to announce that today, over the last few days, well, I guess yesterday it was made public, SEIU 1021, the largest public sector union in the city, is supporting us. We just received the endorsement of the United Educators of San Francisco, UESF. We received SF, the Women's Political Committee, earlier this week as well, and a whole host of small business organizations as well.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, and then do we have opponents for Proposition I here? Hey.
Hey, Max.
Hey, doing, Asha?
All right, man.
Okay, got 3.5 minutes, including time.
Although the 3.5 minutes seemed like a lot longer than 3.5 minutes. Good evening, everyone. You're probably wondering why a former supervisor is here for a proposition. And I will tell you that I am working with a coalition, the San Francisco Building Trades, the Firefighters Union, the deputy sheriffs, a whole host of other labor unions, one of which leaders is here right now, public safety, public employees. This is a horrible, horrible measure. And let me tell you why. This year, and as you know, the city is facing two crises at the same time. We have a tax structural deficit. So we're almost at $1 billion this past year. And the mayor had to balance the budget. That is a required thing. And there were significant cuts to after-school programs, to senior programs, to childcare programs, to workforce development programs, to food security programs. Those are real things that happen. And so what wasn't said was, this will be a budget set aside. Up to $120 million will come out of the budget. It's not going to come out of the budget that's set aside for libraries and other programs that are in the budget. It will come out of the discretionary funds, all of which I told you. On the second side, we have an affordable housing crisis, and there is a coalition of builders, including the building trades, who actually build all the affordable housing in the city, with nonprofit developers, with the mayor, with almost all the members of the Board of Supervisors that are supporting Prop C. And that will not have a single impact on the budget. That is a reauthorization of an existing funding stream. We're going to extend it and make it more impactful. So we support that, and we support building affordable housing. What we don't support is robbing Peter to pay Paul. And when you read the measure, and it's deceptively written, it never should have been put on the ballot. It should have gone through the legislative process, but it didn't. It was rushed and put on the ballot. When you read it, up to 70% of that money does not need to be spent and is not mandated to be spent on building housing. It can acquire housing. It can do social housing, which we've never done in the city, and you can agree or disagree, and that might be a valuable thing. it goes to administration, it goes to eviction defense, which we already fund in the budget. 70% is going into a nonprofit fund that does not need to be spent on housing. And in a lot of ways, that is going to be categorized as a nonprofit slush fund. So you're creating a dynamic now. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're not really building any affordable housing, and you're stopping some of the progress that we have made to help this city recover. Because we have to put money into essential services. And if you cut those essential services, you're going to be taking San Francisco backwards. And it's taken a few years for us to get to where we are. So it might be true. This was passed, and it was a general fund purpose tax. It was not a dedicated tax. So that money went into the budget, and mayors have to do, and the board has to do what we have to do to keep the city running. So now you're going to say, we're going to take that money out, and the only way you can do that is if you make significant cuts. So join a whole host, janitors union, the firefighters, the police officers, the deputy sheriffs, the elevator constructors, buildings, San Francisco building trades, IBW, electricians, carpenters. There is a whole host of people that are opposing this measure. And I'm going to hand it over to Greg.
Yeah, Greg Hardiman. I'm the trustee for the San Francisco Building Trades and officer for the Elevator Constructors Local 8. Right now, San Francisco, this is not the time to run a ballot measure like this. It's going to take money from the general fund. The intent may sound good, but no guarantee of housing, no labor standards on the housing. We don't even know if anything will get built. All this is going to do is hurt the city services. Right now, car break-ins are down. We're going to see, we got the fire departments putting out electrical fires, and this is just going to cut their budget. San Francisco is on the bounce back. We don't need to have any money come out of general fund to lose services and put us back where we were around after the pandemic. So I'm here today to ask you guys to do a no on Prop I, and hopefully you guys can all jump in and support that, back us up on that. This is just not the time to put this through. And again, no guarantee in housing. We all agree we need housing, but this isn't it.
Well said. Any questions? Guys, we're ready to move on. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. We've got a host of state propositions here that we could not get people for. That would be propositions 2, 3, 4, and 5, 37, 38, and 39. So I'm going to just read through these as, again, the neutral summaries and some supporters and opponents. So Proposition 2 is the Rainy Day Fund. This is a constitutional amendment from top Democratic leaders, which would allow the state to deposit up to 20% of its general fund tax revenue into the Rainy Day Fund every year instead of the current 10%. So the state could also spend some tax revenue to pay down its current $20 billion federal unemployment insurance debt. The supporters include Governor Gavin Newsom and legislative Democrats, and the opponents include the legislature Republicans. Proposition 3 is to make the high earner income tax permanent. So currently, this measure seeks to make a temporary income tax, which is up to 12% on high earners, that was approved in 2012, permanent. So this tax applies to household income over $721,000 for couples annually and over $360,000 annually for individuals. The tax generates between $5 and $15 billion each year for K through 12 schools and community colleges, and it's currently set to expire in 2031. So again, Prop 3 would make this tax permanent. And the supporters include the California Teachers Association, California Federation of Teachers, and the California School Employees Association. The opponents include the California Taxpayers Association. Proposition 4 is public campaign financing. We already have that here in San Francisco, but basically this measure would bring it statewide. And it's been banned in the state since 1988. But basically it would set up it would give California governments the authority to set up public financing systems for state and local political candidates. So it would bring what we have in SF statewide, but only by optional opt-in for local jurisdictions. The supporters include California Common Cause, California Clean Money Campaign, the League of Women Voters, and ACLU California Action. And again, the opponents are the California Taxpayers Association. Proposition 5 is recall election reform. So after a recall, this constitutional amendment would eliminate the election to pick a successor immediately, such as when Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger replaced the recalled Governor Gray Davis, instead leaving the post vacant until it's filled in a special election. It would also allow the recalled official to run for the office again. Supporters include League of Women Voters, California Common Cause, and Secretary of State Shirley Weaver. Opponents include Election Integrity Project California. Proposition 37. Again, 37 and 38 and 39 we do not have supporters or opponents for, but Prop 37 is a $25 billion home buying loan. So this would create a $25 billion mortgage loan program for home buyers who make less than 200% of the area median income. This measure would offer fixed rate mortgages for up to 17% of the purchase price on homes priced under $1.5 million. So most of what's available here in the city, maybe not all of it. Oh, some. Not that one that you drove by earlier, but home buyers must pay at least 3% of the down payment. So the supporters include former Senate Majority Leader Bob Hertzberg, Building a Better California, the California Association of Realtors, United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, and the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters. There are no opponents on record for this one. So Proposition 38 is an immunology research bond, which would allow the state to borrow $8.4 billion to research immune system-based technologies for treating conditions including cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. The money would be divided between a University of California-affiliated nonprofit and a grant for public or nonprofit institutions. Any resulting technology and drugs from the research would be sold at 20% below the national average. So the supporters include Gary Michelson, who is a philanthropist and funder for a nonprofit that would receive most of the money from this bond measure. And then the ALS Association and the Alzheimer's Association also support this measure. The opponents include Robert Kaplan, the former associate director of the NIH. Prop 39, this is voter ID. The constitutional amendment would require voters to present government-issued ID when voting in person, or the last 4 digits of their ID when they're voting by mail. Supporters include Reform California, Californians for Voter ID, and Republican U.S. Representative Ken Calvert. This measure sucks. Oops, sorry. I said I was going to read them and be neutral, but Prop 39 really just does suck if you're a Democrat, and I think most of us are one, so I'm not voting for it. The opponents include the League of Women Voters, ACLU, and California Donor Table. Yeah. Who do we have in the waiting room? 45. No 43 still? Wow. Fake. Okay, well, we're going to hand this over to, or I'm going to relinquish control of my little bully pulpit. And we got, I think, Andrea here? Yes. There we go. And she's going to tell us about Prop J. Right, got 5 minutes. Little tiny mic. Yep.
5 minutes is for all of it?
Yeah, for you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea with Prop J, and I'm going to try today to do my best impression of Supervisor Ballot Mahmood, who's the author of this proposition. So it's very simple what we're aiming to do. We want to help grow the city revenue. As you guys know, budget season has been very tough for us these past couple years. It's been a bunch of cuts and hard decisions by the mayor and the Board of Supervisors, trying to balance the budget while also prioritizing city services and essential workers and such. So what this measure truly does is remove a tax break that corporate lenders and financial institutions are using to get around the transfer tax. And as you know, the transfer tax, all that money goes into our general fund, which, you know, helps us with our, as I said, like firefighters, essential services, and city workers. And so for a bit of context, in 1984, as you know, there was a financial crisis. San Francisco decided to help protect families who were going through, who were financially struggling, and created something called the foreclosure tax exemption, which basically allowed all properties, it was very broad, it allowed all properties to be exempt from paying the transfer tax when their properties were foreclosed upon. And as I said, that was meant to help struggling and working San Francisco families. But now that we look towards the future, towards the present, almost 40 years from then, the market's very different and things have changed drastically. Corporate lenders, financial institutions are now using that tax break to circumvent the transfer tax when they foreclose on office buildings, on hotels, on large apartment complexes, which is losing, and in the past 3 years has lost San Francisco $400 million. And so now that we look towards the present, in the next 5 years, it's been said by the controller, if we go forward with this tax exemption, we would be raising $100 to $150 million every year that would go towards the general fund. So basically what this measure would do is close the loophole, but still allow single-family homes and multifamily buildings that are under 5 units to still have this foreclosure tax break, so that we're not still penalizing working families. So we are just trying to make the tax code fair, make sure everyone's paying their fair share, and help generate income for the city that we would otherwise be leaving on the table. That was my pitch. Any questions? Wow, you guys are so easy. Okay.
Sweet.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
I appreciate your time.
All right, and next up, we're going to hear from some speakers over Zoom about Proposition 45, which makes changes to CEQA, our favorite thing.
Excellent. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Kyle Griffith. I'm here with the Yes on Proposition 45 campaign. Prop 45 modernizes California's outdated project approval system so that we can build essential projects faster and more affordably, while maintaining California's strong environmental, labor, and tribal protections. Prop 45 establishes enforceable timelines, streamlines permitting, improves accountability, and creates a faster, evidence-based process for resolving lawsuits. By cutting unnecessary delays and red tape, Prop 45 helps reduce the cost of housing, healthcare, electricity, water, and other everyday necessities while accelerating the projects that California needs most. California's cost of living is out of control, and that's mostly because we're failing to deliver on the basics. Our outdated system for approving essential projects like housing, water, clean energy, roads, schools, and hospitals is too slow, too bureaucratic, and too costly. Delays drive up costs, and those costs are passed on to renters, home buyers, people paying your electric or water bills, and taxpayers. Prop 45 reforms this outdated system so that California can build faster and lower costs, while ensuring that California's robust environmental protections are left in place. Prop 45 does not repeal CEQA. It simply establishes clear guidelines to ensure that this process works more predictably and more fairly so that we can build the essential infrastructure projects that Californians rely upon every day. Our measure is supported by more than 150 organizations representing diverse communities and sectors of the economy, and I am more than happy to answer any questions.
No questions from the room. Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. And then Miguel or Gabriel, which of you is speaking? I can highlight. Oh, there is a screen share. Okay. Let me try to get you guys onto the screen.
I can go first and I'll pass it off to Gabriel afterwards.
Perfect. You guys are good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak on Proposition 45 campaign and our strong opposition to this harmful measure. My name is Miguel. I'm the chapter director for Sierra Club, California. With me today is Gabriel Tolson of the No on Prop 45 campaign. Prop 45 is being advanced by the California Chamber of Commerce with funding from investor-owned utilities, data center developers, and corporate PACs. It would fast track a range of polluting projects. These include data centers, warehouses, and freeway expansions, among others, which can contaminate our air and water and leave taxpayers with higher medical expenses, utility bills, and pollution cleanup costs. For these reasons, more than 295 organizations have joined us in opposing this measure, including, as mentioned, the California Democratic Party and California Young Democrats, along with the California Federation of Labor Unions, State Building and Construction Trades Council of California, American Nurses Association of California, the Alliance for Community Transit, ACT LA Coalition, which includes around 50 equitable housing and transit organizations and many others. I'll pass it now to Gabriel.
So much, Miguel. My name is Gabriel Tolson, and I'm the coalition coordinator for the campaign. I'll add a few notes here. Most importantly, the proponents of this measure would like you to believe that Prop 45 is about building affordable housing and sustainable transit projects, but the measure would not streamline most urban housing projects. These developments were already entirely exempted from CEQA last year under AB 130. This means that Prop 45 will have virtually no effect on rents and mortgages for the 94% of Californians that live in urban areas. Prop 45 also overrides programs that the legislature has enacted in recent years to expedite clean energy and sustainable transit projects. In fact, many of the timelines proposed under the measure are the same as or even slower than the timelines already in place for solar, wind, geothermal, rail, bus, and bike infrastructure. And Prop 45 doesn't even cover high-speed rail. And I'll add one note about data centers specifically. Prop 45 covers any project determined to be, quote, incidental to or to, quote, enable the internet. That is a data center. And the Yes campaign also received a $250,000 contribution recently from Prologis, a company that is currently advancing several data center projects here in the Bay Area. In short, the Chamber is co-opting the language of sustainable development and affordability as a distraction from the primary purpose and effect of the measure, to dismantle oversight and review for data centers, sprawl development, highways, and other projects that impede our climate progress. We encourage you to oppose Prop 45. Thank you for your time.
Questions?
Nailed it.
No questions. All right. Thank you, everybody on the Zoom.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, and for our final measure of the night, we have
Recording stopped.
somebody from the District 8 office. And a personal friend. That's why I'm ribbing her. Oh, of course it's a Valkyrie sweatshirt.
I am Sophie. I am the Chief of Staff for Supervisor Mandelin's office, and I'm handing it over to Benny.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm Ben, and I am the campaign manager for Prop A, Clean Up the Charter. It's great to be here. I just want to clear up right off the bat. You guys probably heard from Lila from the mayor's charter reform campaigns earlier today, and there's been some confusion. So I just wanted to clear it up. This ballot measure for charter reform, Prop A, is entirely independent of the mayor's 3 charter reform campaigns. So I wanted to clear that up right off the bat. Some history about charter reform. About every 3 or 4 decades, leaders at City Hall put aside their differences to clean up old, broken, conflicting language in the city charter. The last time this happened was in 1996. I think safe to say a lot has changed about the city since 1996. And what they did that time is they put everything into one big comprehensive charter reform. And this time we've split it up into 4, 3 from the mayor, 1 from the Board of Supervisors. The mayors are a lot more substantive. They deal with how different levels of city government work with each other, whereas Prop A is largely procedural and decidedly consensus-oriented and non-controversial. Basically, how this process was put together is we had commissioners, we had department heads, we had the public weigh in over the course of a months-long transparent process to identified pain points in the charter, places where the charter was getting in their way as people who work with it a lot. And they came forward with about 220 fixes for the charter that were then whittled down by the board to 110 and agreed upon, placed on the ballot. And these quick fixes fall into about 4 categories. The first is outdated terminology. For example, we have references in the charter to a bookbinder, and we just, don't bind books the way we used to. The second category is commission tweaks. We have commissions that were struggling to meet quorum because they were so large we couldn't coordinate everyone's schedule, or because the requirements for who could sit on them were so stringent that we couldn't find enough people to sit on them. We also have zombie commissions that oversee departments that no longer exist, and they can't be changed except by a vote from the public at large on the ballot. The third category is redundant work. We have instances where multiple departments will be required to fill out the exact same form or write the exact same lengthy report for the exact same project. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money that could be better spent serving all of us in San Francisco. And then the last category is just human error. Lawmakers are humans. They are prone to human error. There are typos in the charter. There is confusingly worded language. And so we found the worst offenders and corrected it. So that's just a brief overview of what you'll find in Prop A. And we just really hope that you'll join us and the mayor, the board of supervisors, and so many other groups across San Francisco in this just common sense, good government charter reform. Thank you so much. And I'm going to kick it over to Sophie to answer any questions you might have.
Making my volunteer time really easy if you have no questions.
Did you and or the mayor use AI to find these things, or have you done it on a human level?
100% human level. Nothing else? There's like 110 changes. So many options for questions. Okay. Well, please support, and we'll be in the back if you do have any questions that might arise.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And we are recording this. This will be circulated to our members ahead of our vote. And just for your information, our board vote will be on the 24th for endorsements. 2 days after that, the general membership voting will be open. And I believe that's open for a period of 7 days. Is that right? Yes, 7 days. And then after that, ENDC will release its endorsements. So thank you all for coming, and we look forward to hosting you again next time.